So did anybody else get reminded of the Attack on Titan opening when they heard the title of this week's episode? All I could think of was My War. I don't know, maybe that's just me. But with that said, hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another one of our weekly My Hero Academia Season 5 discussion videos. Today we're here to talk all about Episode 11, Our Brawl, and My War. Sorry, not going to do that. But before we get into the video proper, quick reminder if you haven't done so yet, to hit that subscribe button, ring that bell, set notifications to all, and let all of AniTube know that you're here. Before we go, let's go ahead and set a like goal this week. Let's say 150 likes before the end of the day. That feels doable. So 150 likes. Let's see if we can get it done. But with that said, everybody, let's just go ahead and jump into this week's episode. And yeah, I kind of just want to jump into design time, if I'm honest. So you guys know I'm a big Monoma fan, big Shinso fan. I like Deku and Raraka, like they're fun. But like my main interest was Shinso and Monoma, and I know people like freaked out because I was just like, if nobody interfered, what I said was that Monoma and Shinso could take out Deku. I think people assumed that I was saying that individually they could or something like that. No, I'm saying that together, I genuinely thought that they could have easily taken down Deku. Maybe not easily, but they could have. But obviously, you know, backlash happened, or blacklash, or whatever it is. Deku's new quirk activated, and yeah, like, so now it was obviously sort of out the window after that. And then Raraka was there, so he had backup. So, like, yeah, at that point, no. But, like, Monoma and Shinso together could have taken down Deku there. You can't convince me otherwise. And did I... Just gonna be honest, just gonna be super honest, not my favorite episode. Because the thing I wanted to happen didn't happen. Is that petty? Of course it's petty. Of course I want to see what I want to happen, you know? I'm not gonna lie to you and be like, yeah, it was great. It's like, yeah, like, it is, like, the writing is sound. I don't disagree. Like, it's not one of those situations where I'm like, this is bad writing. I was just like, yeah, it's kind of whack. Like, the writing's good, but I just don't agree. All right, so I'm like, nah, I just don't vibe. It's not a vibe for me. It wasn't a vibe. I wanted Monoma and Class B to win, because now you just kind of punked out Class B, so I can't really take them seriously anymore. Or at least I still will, because, again, another big reason why I loved this season so much, holy crap, Class B's designs are so much better than Class 1A. Spoilers for a video I'm doing. Not gonna lie, Class 1A, some of them have some dope designs. Class 1B, I don't know what Horikoshi was on when he made Class 1B, but some of those designs are insanely creative. And it's not to say that Class 1A's designs aren't, it's just I like the aesthetic of Class 1B a lot more, and I think the characters are a lot more fun. Like, you have characters who are just off their rocker, like Monoma. You got fun, spoopy characters, like this week with Yanagi, and then Mushroom Girl. Like, then you got, like, solid, like, badass heroes like Kendo and Tetsu, and, like, I just vibe with Class 1B a little bit more. Like, Class 1A is great. I love them. That's my squad right there. You know, like, Class 1A, I love them, right? I've been with them for 5 seasons. It'd be a little hard for me to not like them at this point. But I just, you know, I want more Class 1B. And the first time we see them in forever, they get, like, a pretty sound loss, right? So I'm like, okay, that sucks. Like, that's kind of a bummer. Again, I don't really super care, like, if you hate that opinion, because you guys know I'm always going to be honest with my opinion, even when people don't necessarily agree. Still get death threats for some of the shipping things I've said, which is kind of wild. But, yeah, it's just my opinion. That's just, like, my opinion, man. And my opinion is that, yeah, I kind of wanted Monoma and Shinso to win. Monoma gets cool moments this week where he does the whole side character thing, like the last desperate move from a side character. I'm like, and when he says like that he doesn't have the skills to be a protagonist, but that's fine because he's going to be the eccentric supporting character. And I'm like, bro, Monoma, I wish you were the protagonist. Monoma, you are so entertaining. I like and engaging. I love this character. Or Shinso's another one where I'm like, man, Shinso, I wish you were the main character. Like, not to dunk on Deku because he's my boy. Like, I'm not one of those people who's just like, Deku sucks. It's like, no, Deku's cool. I like Deku. He's great. But like, man, I would watch a spin-off. I shouldn't say I wish you were the main character. It's I wish you were the main character of some kind of spin-off. That's the best way I can put it, because I don't want to lose Deku as the MC. Deku's the man. Like, I like Deku. Like, don't think that this is in some kind of like shit-talking thing for Deku. I just don't agree. I just don't like that he just like whoopeth the ass of Shinso and Monoma, and like, I mean, in fairness, like, again, the writing is sound. It's not like he did it on his own. He had help, and it's not like Deku's new powers don't make sense, because they do, and it's not like the characters don't, like, it's not like what happens doesn't make sense, because it does, right? Like, it's Uraraka. She got trained by the, what's his name? Gunhead, I think? He's a badass, so, like, of course, like, we've seen all of this, right? So nothing in terms of the writing is poor at all. It all makes sense. 'Tis just not a vibe. It's not a vibe. Monoma is clearly the man, and I will hear no arguments to the contrary. Sorry, keep wanting to call you chat. Sorry, chat. Sorry, YouTube comment section. You can't convince me otherwise. Monoma's the man. Shinso's the man. They could have beaten Deku if Uraraka didn't show up, and if Deku's powers didn't go apeshit. I said it. But with that said, I do want to actually do the design time that I said I was going to do. And we're going to talk about all 4 characters here. We're going to talk about everybody. And I'm going to be kind of brief because, you know, it's a lot to get through. So let's go ahead and start with Monoma. So, Monoma, the design is perfection. Because it's Monoma, so of course. But Monoma's character is, like, legit. I think the colors used are interesting, and I think the design chosen is interesting. Because Monoma, as we know, he considers himself sort of this, like, support character, right? Like, this sort of side character in the world of My Hero. He doesn't really see himself as the main character, but that doesn't mean he has a fragile ego, because he has a small ego. He has an ego the size of the entire school. Like, Monoma is very full of himself, and I think one of the easiest ways that you can display that is by having this sort of over-the-top, like, fancy-ass, like, ritzy kind of outfit, right? Like, Monoma's whole outfit is this sort of tuxedo mask-esque type character without the mask, right? Like, he just sort of is, like, he oozes, like, sort of elegance, right, because of his outfit. And that comes down a lot to color as well. Like, if he had been in a white suit, wouldn't have worked as well. And the reason for that is when I think of a white suit, I'm usually thinking of, like, some kind of wedding, right? Like, if I'm thinking of white, like one of many things I'm thinking of is like a wedding. Like, if it's on a character's design, like if it's like something the character is wearing, usually I'll think wedding, right? But when a suit is black, you can wear like a black suit to a wedding. A lot of people have a black suit to a wedding. You know, you don't always wear the white suit. It's kind of gaudy, you know, like you usually go black suit, but white suit is typically associated with a wedding. Whereas black is kind of associated with, almost a sense of, like, mystery and elegance, right? Like, with, or, like, power, right? Because black as a color, it's very, well, it's more like the absence of, but, like, it's a very, interesting color, right? Because it basically is this sort of mystery, but, like, a powerful mystery, right? Like, there's something elegant to the color black, especially a black suit. It just sort of makes the character come across as very elegant, right? Very, how should I say this? Like, very sophisticated, right? And that's the vibe that Monoma is attempting to give off. That he's this very, like, elegant and sophisticated, higher than that, like, holier than thou type character. And that really comes through in the suit, right? But it's important to also notice the tie. My boy has a teal tie, with, like, darker teal spots, right? Now, when I saw this, I was a little confused, because teal is a reserved color. So I thought it was interesting that his suit had teal in it, because teal is very much a soft-spoken color, right? Like, it's a bit angsty, it's a bit on the fringes, but teal usually sort of brings out a general vibe of, like, reserved, right? Like, teal is sort of like, teal works best in, like, a group, right? And at first I couldn't understand why that was on Monoma, because I was like, Monoma's clearly, like, off his rocker and insane and usually the center of attention. But after this week, it just all clicks, right? Where I'm like, of course his tie would be teal, because he's very much the support character in the same way teal is the support color, right? It's something that you like. He's reserved, not so much like it's showing that he's reserved not so much in his mannerisms, because he's not, but he's reserved in how he views himself in relation to the other heroes that he is training with, right? That he doesn't really feel as though he's the main character, but he does want to play the eccentric side character. And I thought that was really cool. Likewise, I think the clocks just add to the elegance of the character, right? Because they're all like pocket watches, which again sort of makes him this like aristocratic, fancy type character, along with his suit, which again just oozes sophistication. But even the hero name, Phantom Thief, I'm sure all the Persona fans are about to do the same thing they always do, where it's like, is this a Persona 5 reference? Yes and no. It's not, but Persona 5 does connect to this. So the Phantom Thief is not like a reference to Persona, it's more so a literary reference, meaning sort of like a thief who sort of like, think Robin Hood, right? Where it's like somebody who does bad things but for the sake of good, right? Like does something bad for the sake of doing something good. That's what a Phantom Thief is. And again, the name is very fitting for Monoma. That is pretty much his whole character. He's willing to be this sort of bombastic, like almost antagonistic character for the sake of getting people, like getting under people's skin so that he can eventually take down baddies, right? So you can imagine Monoma when he's actually a full-fledged hero, talking down villains to get in their head and then easily sweeping them. So he's being sort of antagonistic, but ultimately for the sake of being a good person, right? Like to taking down the baddies by getting in their head. So I've always enjoyed Monoma's design, but actually getting to like analyze it, it just makes me like it even more. But next character, Yanagi. Again, another reason why I think Class 1B just has the better outfits. Yanagi's outfit is absolutely sick. So Yanagi has gray hair with blue eyes. You'll notice like a lot of the characters have like blue in their designs. A lot of characters have blue eyes. In fact, everybody has blue eyes except for Shota. But yeah, Yanagi has blue eyes. Blue can pretty much sum it up for everybody here. Blue in like blue irises, and even Shota, I should stress, like has blue in his design. Blue is just justice, right? Like especially when it comes to My Hero, like blue is very associated with justice in the show in the same way it is in like say Death Note, right? Where you see L like surrounded by like the blue aura, right? It's the same thing here. Like usually when I see the color blue in My Hero, I sort of just associate it with justice and like kindness, right? Like blue typically, you think blue, you might think of like a security guard or a police officer or something. Somebody who is meant to uphold some sense of law or justice. That's why blue is here and just seen quite often throughout the show. But yeah, Yanagi's eyes are also blue. Gray is, I think, meant to just sort of indicate a more ethereal type character. Gray is typically, gray hair in particular is usually associated with an older person, frailty, ghosts, like it is in this case, like something sort of otherworldly. It might be gray or silver, like might have gray or silver hair, I should say. So I think the gray hair makes a whole lot of sense. But to me, the standout colors in Yanagi's design is easily the pale purple on her kimono. So to me, I think it's kind of clear that the pale purple kimono is definitely meant to indicate a sense of mystery. I've mentioned this a ton, but purple is often associated with mystery since only royals could wear purple back in the day, so it's associated both with royalty, but what do people think about the royals? Well, we don't know. It's a mystery. Like, what happens behind the closed doors of the castle? We don't know. It's a mystery. That's where the idea of purple being a mysterious color comes from. And as that connects to Yanagi, it makes a lot of sense. She's a ghost. She's supposed to be sort of like, well, she's not like a ghost, but she behaves and is drawn in her design, as you can hear by me discussing it, is definitely ghost-inspired. So I think the idea of having this sort of purple kimono makes a lot of sense. I believe even when she's using her projectiles, like even when she's using Poltergeist, it's purple, right? So like the sort of purple energy makes, and that paired with the pale purple kimono, it makes a whole ton of sense for her character, and I think it works super, super well. But the secondary color that I see a lot, like it's not just like the the only thing standing out to me is the white furred collar. I think on top of the purple, you can't really ignore the collar. Since to me, like, it definitely indicates a sense of innocence. Like, Yanagi didn't really seem like out for vengeance or like really competitive. They just seemed like they were earnestly trying to win, as opposed to like Monoma, who was desperately trying to win, you know? But I think one of the things that interests me the most about the character is the just the connection to this sort of spooky vibe, right? And it goes throughout not just the design of like their clothing, but also the way that they hold themselves and their hero name, right? Like, look back at the furred collar for a sec. That gives me like a spooky mist or fog vibe, right? It's like there's like a fog or a mist rolling in, and it's centered specifically on Yanagi's shoulders, right? That's sort of the vibe I get with the furred collar, right? It gives you sort of like a spooky vibe because it kind of makes you think of like a fog or maybe like mist or something. While just the way the character holds themselves, the hands outstretched and the limp's wrist, the limp's wrist. Wow, words good. The wrist's limp. It gives off a sort of like woo spooky, right? Like when you're being a ghost, you do sort of this motion that Yanagi is doing with her arms, right? They're sort of outstretched and the wrists are sort of laid limp, and she comes off as looking like a spooky ghost, right? I think that that's just really good attention to detail. She could have been standing proud and tall like the other heroes in training, but instead they let her sort of stand with her arms outstretched like a little T-Rex, but with her wrists limp, so to come across as a ghost. And I think that makes sense given her quirk. And as for the hero name itself, Emily. Some of you guys might be like, Emily, that's weird. But to me, it's definitely a nod to the story of Emily Rose, which is the exorcism of Emily Rose. That's immediately what I thought of. Again, because of the design. Her design is so good that the second you hear Emily, you're not... well, if you've seen the exorcism of Emily Rose, you'll know it's a horror movie. So if you watch a lot of horror movies, you'll know immediately what the name is in reference to. Again, just because you're looking at the design, you know it's something spooky. You hear Emily and you immediately connect it to Emily Rose. And I thought that was a super cool little nod. And I love Yanagi's design. But to move on, Shota is a character whose design I really enjoy, but I don't know if I love it as much as I think it's just a really solid reference. And what do I mean by that? Well, let's talk about it. So the hair, once again, there's some blue here. It's sort of like a slate blue, like a very sort of steel blue. The eye color is just kind of plain black. I'll admit, it's rare for me to like character eyes where it's just like Tintin, right? Like the only thing I can think of is Mirio. I don't normally like when the character's eyes are like just black, although mind you, Mirio's eyes are blue, but you know what I mean, like where the character's like iris is just black. I always find that boring. I'm like, give them some eye color, like give them like some proper color, right? Like give them like green eyes or blue eyes or whatever. But with Shota, his eyes are just kind of black, sort of like generic. Like we don't really have time to give him like super solid irises, so just like super cool looking irises, so just make them black, right? Like that's sort of the vibe that you get. But with his color choice, for the most part, the biggest standout color is definitely black. He has like the black armor that he wears. He has the black suit. But I will say that there is some secondary colors in the character as well. A lot of whites sort of as this like trimming to the armor, sort of like piping. And then there's, of course, the blue on the Scouter and the Radar. Now, we've already discussed what blue usually means in a character design, especially one found in My Hero Academia. But I do think it's worth noting the very striking similarities between Shota and any of the Saiyan characters and any of the Frieza Force in Dragon Ball. So you cannot convince me that this was not a Dragon Ball reference. And that's the reason why I like Shota, is because he's a walking Dragon Ball reference. And honestly, that's kind of all I got on Shota. I think that they're fun. I think Twin Impact is super cool. I was a little confused about what it did at first, but now I love it. I think it's a super sick quirk. I would love to see Shota show up in some kind of My Hero game. And again, I think the reference to Dragon Ball is super cool and clever. I love that he has both the Scouter but also the Dragon Radar, essentially. Like, he has both. That's super sick. I really enjoyed the design. Very simple design, just kind of a nod and a reference, like a wink and a nod and a reference to Dragon Ball, but still super cool, and I really enjoyed it. The last character that we're going to talk about this week, though, is Kodai, and they have black hair and blue eyes, but I think the thing that I find the most interesting about their design is that this wasn't originally their design. If you didn't know about this, and I'll go into this more in a future video that I'm planning to do, but the original design for Kodai was actually the original design for Ochako. It was Araraka's old design, so Araraka very much could have looked like Kodai at one point, but instead the character designs got swapped and they went a different direction with Araraka, making her a lot more of like sort of this cutesy character. Which is too bad, because I think Kodai's a badass. I'll go into that more. There's actually another character who was also wrapped up in this original Ochako prototype, but I'm going to save that for the eventual video that I'm planning. But yeah, definitely an interesting story there. But so Kodai basically has Araraka's original design. And I found that really interesting, that they, especially the fact that they don't get like a proper brawl, which I would have loved to have seen. Like, it's my show now. Like, it'd be cool to see like these two characters who were formerly the same character but had their designs swapped and they became separate characters. I would like to see them throw down. You know, I thought it would have been sick. But again, we end the episode with all of them getting captured, which kind of makes me feel like that was a bad decision, but that's just me. But Kodai is, as a character, to get back on track, Kodai is a character I really vibe with. The standout colors, definitely red and white in the suit, right? I think the whole sort of like red and white aesthetic, I like it a lot. I thought it was very Canadian at first, but no, it is not. So apparently the hat and general color scheme is actually meant to resemble one of the heroes from Ultraman. Now, I've never seen Ultraman, right? So I don't actually know which of the Ultramen this is meant to be in reference to. I'm just going off what the wiki said. By the way, the My Hero Wiki is very helpful. Just if you ever need to do a video, kudos to the people working on the wiki, because they do a phenomenal job. But yeah, apparently Kodai's hero outfit is like the color scheme and the hat in particular, like especially the hat apparently, is not a Canadian reference, which breaks my heart, but instead an Ultraman reference. So that's kind of sick, and it makes sense given her quirk, the fact that she can make things grow and shrink. I think that actually makes a shit ton of sense. And yeah, I still can't get over the fact that this is Ochako's original design, by the way. Imagine if this is who was dating Deku. Just tossing that out there. But with that said, everybody, that is going to wrap up today's video here. So I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, don't forget to boop that up snoot, share if you care, leave a comment down below, and of course, make sure that you hit that subscribe button, ring that bell, and set notifications to all. Don't forget to hit our like goal this week, 150 likes before the end of the day. Let's try to get that done. And of course, before we go, as always, I want to give a big thank you to the good folks in the T Squadron. Look at these beautiful people. Look at all these beautiful names, and hey, if you would like to join these beautiful people, there are two ways to do so. The first is by hitting that join button or right beside the sub button to get a badge next to your name, some emotes to spam in the comments, and of course your name scrolling past the screen here. Or for just a single $1, you can check out that Patreon link in the description. Either way, it is super appreciated. So once again, a big thank you to the good folks in the T Squadron. And that is pretty much it for me. I definitely rambled on this week, and I apologize for that. But man, I just love Class 1B. I love their designs. It's going to be a bummer not talking about them as much. And I still feel like my squad got punked out by my other squad, so I can't be like that mad. I'm not even mad. I'm just kind of like, I don't vibe. But yeah, anyway, bye!